Good morning. We are live on the Falcons Podcast. It is Wednesday morning. We've been gone a week, so it's good to be back, everybody. I hope you've had a great week and are looking forward to an excellent weekend. My name is Scott Kennedy. I'll be your host. I'm in Atlanta. This guy over here, he's Nick Kendall. He's in Seattle. So we go coast to coast with your football talk in the morning. Nick, it's you and I talked a little Broncos last night. It's the first time I've seen you in a while, though. So how you doing?
I'm doing okay. Like I was telling you before the show, not the best night of sleep. The little guy, I don't know, he's really fussy. Yesterday evening, Natalie is like, I'm gonna get out of here and take the dog on a walk. So I was home with him after the live stream and just could not really get him to not be upset. And then hard to get down. Woke up at midnight. Wouldn't go back down until like 1. Woke up at 4:30. Wasn't completely down when I put him down here. So. Thank God. God bless you, Lion Coffee, Patrick, because I need like a drip or something of this or an enema, something that needs to hit my veins. Maybe we need something a little stronger next time. But man, it's a rough night.
See, the more I hear, the more I get older and the more, it all kind of comes full cycle. I'm like, that sounds like my nights getting up to go pee. I was up at 12:30 and then again at 3:30, and then I had to decide if I wanted to stay in bed or not at 6, and I just said the hell with it, and I got up. Yeah, it sounds like your night too.
So I've been up since about 4:30 and went to, I don't know, didn't go to bed until 10:30, and just very little sleep last night. I function pretty well on little sleep, but I don't always make the I'm not always in the brightest spirits when I get little sleep.
I got you. Well, that's just me anyway. So, no, but welcome in, everybody. We like to go live on Mondays and Wednesdays because we like having the conversation with everyone. And there were some folks that were here before we even got started. Like Nick's KN. He says, morning, everyone. Let's have a good day. Absolutely. Dave Glassman's in here. He's one of our crossover fans, Denver Broncos. And he says, please tell me about the former Falcon UDFA QB turned tight end that Denver is trying out in camp. Please and thank you. So Falcons fans, if you hadn't seen this, Felipe Franks got an invite to the Denver Broncos camp yesterday. And I'm telling you guys, I mean, there's 200 guys that go through each team over the course of a year, but it just seems like there's been some synergy between the Falcons and Broncos since you and I started doing this. There's been a lot of crossover here. So, Dave, Felipe was a highly recruited quarterback, went to Florida, had some success there, transferred to Arkansas, and I think this was before portal, so he probably had to sit out a year. Transferred to Arkansas. He may have been a graduate. Doesn't matter. Played pretty well at Arkansas. Goes to the Senior Bowl as a quarterback, and that was my first year back into the business on this side of it. And I was down there. I was like, yeah, that dude ain't an NFL quarterback. And he wasn't. He didn't get drafted, but he is a good enough athlete to play in the NFL, and he's stuck around. He's about 6'5", maybe 230, 235, runs well, did some special teams work for the Falcons. They would try and put him in here. We'll try and throw a funny package at somebody, and it wasn't really a good fit for him. But now if he's dedicated himself to tight end, he's absolutely athletic enough to be a pass catcher. And then athletic enough to make a special teams impact. And you love the heart, you love the drive in this kid, because a lot of them won't do it. They just flat out won't. They're if they don't make it as quarterback, then they're just gone. And he's been trying to put in work for 4 years now.
Yeah, Tim Tebow, right? But yeah, Felipe Franks tested pretty well at the combine. When I switch his parameters to tight end, he's the 88th percentile for 40-yard dash, 20-yard shuttle to 81st percentile, broad jump 62nd, vertical jump was fine. They're in like the 40th. But the big thing with him for me is what's his weight at now. When he came into the combine, obviously trying to play quarterback, not tight end. He only weighed 234, which for
that's bigger than I thought. I thought he was in the 220s, so he was even bigger then. I bet he's knocking on the door at 250 now.
And tight ends, I think tight ends probably have the smallest margins for what their weight is, because I feel like every single tight end is between 240 to 260 and even like 245 to 255. Like Brock Bowers only weighs 240. That doesn't sound crazy. You look at it, it's like the 7th percentile. It's like, oh my God.
I was gonna say 265, that as big as they're getting, but yeah, there is a fine line in there for sure.
Yep. 6'5", 250, like carbon press. There they go. All right, we're good. We made it. So being almost 6'7" in his height, big wingspan too. Hopefully somebody that can put on and get to that 245 range, but we'll see. Solid athlete, and not cheering against him. That's for sure.
I won't speak. Yeah, JB, Denver has the legend Felipe Franks. So I won't say I root against him. I root for him. I want him to go, but I think I speak for all Falcons fans at the end of his tenure of them trying to force feed something into Felipe Franks. I don't want to see this guy on the field again. That was kind of how it measured out. That doesn't mean he can't become something, but they were trying to force a round peg into a square hole, or however you want to say it, and it just wasn't a great fit. And he's like, "Oh, Felipe Franks is on the field. Yeah, here's a double pass," or he missed a block, but he ended up doing pretty well on special teams. And I think that's where he can help. He's athletic as hell, and the kid obviously works hard. So, yeah, Felipe's trying out with the Denver Broncos. Hopefully, he can at least get a camp. A full camp invite, get a sign, and keep earning a paycheck.
Yep.
Would be happy for him.
Baby got himself back down. God bless, what a win. Good for him. Wife just texted me. Oh, hell yeah. Coffee's kicking in now.
The small victories. I realize I've got incredible hearing. Can't see worth a damn anymore, but my hearing is still really good, and it always has been. And crying babies used to just drive me berserk. I was the guy on the plane that if there was a crying baby on the plane, I was just, losing it. And then when I had a kid, I realized you are physically hardwired to respond to that sound.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, as a parent, I'd hear a and your body just comes up like, what's wrong? I'm like, okay, this makes sense. I got it. But and then after that, crying babies on airplanes, it's a different perspective. It's like, oh, thank God it's not mine. It's not mine. Screaming and crying and make a fuss. You're like, oh, it's okay. I get it. No problem. I'm just gonna put on my headphones and enjoy my flight. You've got this. We support you.
I am the opposite. Have you ever seen Happy Gilmore? You go to your happy place. I am
once or twice.
Okay, there's the scene where he's like, go to a happy place, and there's the little person like in a cowboy outfit running around. That's me.
Yeah, that's what you would remember. Yeah, I remember. Was it Julie Bowen? Yeah, I remember her. So,
yeah.
Anyway, here we go. We're off the rails early already. Red Swarm is in. He says, "Good morning, Scott, and everyone joining the show. Rise up. Good to see you, Red Swarm." Oblivion Empire says, "What's up, guys? Great morning, everyone. Smash that like, show support for these guys." Yeah, well, that's a big help, especially as we get into the dog days, June and July. If y'all are here with us in June and July, you're the real ones. You're the hardcores for sure. We had some really, really good numbers in January, February, March and April. They're gonna tamp down a little bit in June and July. So hitting those likes and those shares is a huge help to try and find our lost Falcons fans out there. John Harrell, good to see you. Hope your travels went well. He says, good morning, Scott and Nick and the Falcons family. 95 North Falcons Talk Show. They're here this morning. Good to see you. Good morning, Scott and Nick. Morning all to the chat. That's all y'all. He says, Nick's strong coffee is essential, brother. You don't have to tell us. And Lion Coffee has taken care of us for probably 2 years now, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
It's Patrick Wiltsey's been a godsend to our show, so thank you very much. Curtis Case, morning, Scott and Nick. Thanks for helping us get through the summer without football. So looking forward to the fall. Thank you for being here, because it's really, if there's no one to talk to, it's kind of depressing. So thank you for being here. Joseph's on his third cup already. Michael Ronquillo, the sunrise, because he's as reliable as a sunrise in here all the time. He says, good morning, Scott and Nick on the Falcons podcast. Right back at you. Mad Mike's here, too. Good to see you, Mad Mike. Chris Walker, morning, Scott and Nick, along with everyone watching. So let's get into this a little bit. The takeaways. We're all done. It's done. We're into that 6-week dry spell where mostly the only news that is going to come out in the NFL is bad. So-and-so got arrested. So-and-so got hurt in their off-season program. So it's usually the bad news time. So a nice quiet, and frankly, that's how I think of it. After the draft, where the Falcons shocked everybody by drafting Michael Penix after signing Kirk Cousins. Again, those go hand in hand. This isn't just that you drafted Michael Penix. It was that you did both, was kind of unprecedented. And it's really quieted down since then. One of my biggest takeaways from camp right now, Nick, is Kirk Cousins looks healthy. If you didn't know that he was coming off of an injury, you wouldn't know that he's coming off an injury. And that's one of the best things you can say about the Atlanta Falcons right now.
You have a quarterback who should give you confidence and is, by all accounts, a professional. He was always going to put himself in position. It happened early last season, and you would hope and think that if you're going to pay somebody that much money, granted he didn't get that 100% guaranteed contract like he did the first time with the Vikings, but giving out that much money, that the medical staff would have an understanding of where he's going to be at and be ready. So really encouraging to see that he's healthy. Obviously, we've seen the throwing early on with him looking around, going out there. We'll all kind of hold our breaths until he takes that first hit. And I will be, I don't know if I play him in preseason, Scott, maybe a drive. I don't know. Just because it's the new offensive install and all the new guys out there. But yeah, Kirk Cousins being healthy, huge to the Falcons. One of the reasons that you and I are both so high on them this season. They have the best quarterback in the NFC South. Trying to think. I'd take him over Mayfield and Carr as well.
Baker's in the argument. Derek Carr. I mean, it's better than Bryce Young is. We don't quite know what Bryce Young is, but I don't expect him to take that leap this year yet. I think Carolina's still too unsettled for us to still really find out what we've got in Bryce Young.
And even still, he was poor enough that you should be, if you were a Carolina Panther fan, you should have tight, what syndrome going on right now, being nervous about the trading up for what we saw last year. But I digress. Kirk Cousins looks great. He looks like he's in command. He looks like he's going to be healthy. And I'm really excited to see what him and Robinson and this entire Falcons offense can do this season, bringing that Sean McVay-esque West Coast style to Atlanta, which obviously the last time I remember seeing it out there was pretty good overall results.
And the dynamic between the two, between Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins and Taylor Heineke, between the three of them, I've kind of already moved on from Taylor Heineke. Like he's running with the twos right now, and I don't run him with the twos. I don't want him taking it to minicamp. But come August, end of July, when they're together, I want Michael Penix running with the twos. I want him getting every rep that Kirk Cousins doesn't. So Taylor Heineke, unfortunately, is kind of an afterthought, but he's still getting paid, so good for you. He's still a millionaire, so it's not an afterthought for him. But the dynamic has been really good. We saw that last year with Taylor Heineke. He was the ultimate veteran, I know my role guy, which is good. And then Michael Penix, one of the reasons they took him was because they knew that he was okay with the idea of being mentored for a year or two before taking the reins. So, and then Kirk Cousins, just listening to Raheem Morris talk yesterday, it's kind of the little things. It's like, oh yeah, we had a chance. Kirk came in here and he watched every single catch on Drake London, on Kyle Pitts, on Bijan Robinson to get a feel for where they like the ball. Oh, picture that versus the last 2 years, y'all. And nothing against Desmond Ridder. I think Desmond Ridder is an NFL quarterback. It might be a backup, but we're just hoping that Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder would get the ball somewhere near these pterodactyl wingspans that we've got with Drake London and Kyle Pitts. And meanwhile, Kirk Cousins is deciding where to place the ball that they like it the most. What
there's
a difference
levels
a year can make.
Yeah, there's levels to this. I mean, we've talked about it before. You can go from a D to an A at edge, which is the second most valuable position in sports. Hopefully you're doing okay there, Scott. I don't know what's going on.
I think that was a chapstick that rolled off my desk.
Okay, not more water in the lap.
Not that's more good. Coffee or coffee in the crotch today.
Yeah, that's good.
Not yet. It's still early.
Yeah. And then, but going from like an edge D level player to an A, maybe isn't even as valuable as going from like a C or a D to a C or a C to a B at quarterback, just because quarterback is that important. And there's levels to it, of course. But hearing him talk about something like that, about just the specific strike zone area versus, the overall catch radius, I mean, we'll see what it looks like in function, right? Because it's talk right now, but that does make a big difference. And it's also probably hard to know based on the wide receivers right now, given the scatter shot accuracy we've seen specifically the last 2 seasons out of Atlanta quarterback play. So again, I know a lot of people with the panic stuff against that pick or against signing Kirk because of that, but you should have much better quarterback play this season from just the intelligence leadership side of things and the play on the field, of course, as well. So really excited. I can't wait to see it this year. Might be the first good quarterback play I've got to watch covering a team since, I don't know, the 2 years prior to Matt Ryan being shipped out. I can't even remember, Scott. It's been a bit.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Ryan was
The last season, not good.
he was a shell of himself, but he was never a rocket armed guy. So in 2021, that was his last year. It was 2021. That was Arthur Smith's first year. It was 1, 2, 3, 21, 22, 23. Matt Ryan wasn't bad. He wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. And he's taken some freaking beatings. My God. He's taken some beatings, and some of those were earned. We talk about sacks being quarterback stats. He liked to hold on to the ball. He was brave, no doubt about it. He was like, I want to hold on to this to the last possible second that I can, and I'll take the hit. But yeah, it's been really since maybe 2018, since the Falcons quarterback play has been above league average. Matt Ryan had a pretty good season in 2018 under the second year of Steve Sarkisian. I have to try and give him some credit even if I don't want to. Let's see. There was Chris Walker came in, and this one goes into 2 parts. He says, so how many ex-Bears are we going to sign? Because JB asked, what do you know about the new signee, cornerback Harrison Hand, Scott and Nick? I don't remember him coming through. I don't think he's all that old. He was a 5th round pick in 2020. So that was, really the year before I started getting back into this. But so I don't remember him coming through. I can just tell you what we've seen since then, which is he played in 14 games as a rookie, was gone from Minnesota as a 23-year-old after his second year, picked up by the Bears because naturally, I mean, are we allowed to sign guys that don't have Titans or Bears on their resume? We're allowed to in Atlanta to do that, right? Because I see the picture of this guy and I'm like, Bears again. Why not Chiefs? Why not Bills? How about 49ers?
Yeah.
Why
Eagles
Bears all the time? Even the Titans are better than that. It's like, let's see who's lost more games than us in the last 5 years. Let's get all of their cast-offs, guys.
To be fair, though, this kind of signing at this point doesn't really. You're talking overall, but yeah, Hand, 5th round pick out of Temple, played a lot for the Vikings. Hasn't played an NFL snap since 2022. So this is really, filling out the 90 man and getting somebody out that wasn't getting it done and getting somebody in who hopefully, can take those 3rd and 4th string reps. And you never know, right? You never know. He's played some games his first 2 seasons in the NFL. So we'll see, but I wouldn't expect a lot. I think he's only 25, 26 years old. So he's still within his athletic peak at the cornerback position, but 2 years without playing a snap, maybe he can make a special team role. We'll see. We have questions about the back half of the cornerback room in Atlanta, of course. So we'll keep an eye on him, but probably one of those guys who is, not to be too dark about it, but how many guys this time of year come on the 90-man roster and then gone tomorrow, right? Like not even like lasting until a training camp, but like gone tomorrow, cycled in and out.
The guy he replaced on the roster lasted a week.
That's where we're at in this time of year. And
it's like, stay close. We'll pay your hotel room. We could sign you again tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it is. So with Harrison Hand, do I expect him to make the roster? Not necessarily. Denver, Luke, we hope you're feeling better. Raymond Collins, good to see you. Welcome in. But you've got to fill out and I like to say it's almost, let's see, 53 plus 16. Let's just add one for the hell of it to make it nice and easy. It's almost like a 70-person roster with the practice squads. Who's going to be there? There's going to be 70, but still there's 20 guys that aren't going to be there. And there will probably be 110 to 120 guys that are on the roster between now and September 1st. So I think this is one of these guys fighting for a job. He's there to go help work. Michael Penix is working with the 3s and 4s right now. You need 3s and 4s on both on the field to work both fields of practice that are going on at once. So they're separate practice fields. I don't know if anybody of y'all have been out there, but there's actually separate fields where 1s and 2s are getting work on one field and 3s and 4s are getting work on the other. You need enough guys to make sure that all the 3s and 4s are getting in reps. Kind of what a lot of these signings are in the summertime, is making sure that my prized rookie Michael Penix is getting work when he's over there on the other field with the 3s.
Yeah, we'll see for sure. But yeah, other takeaways, Scott, coming on. But we got JB first, and happy to hear Penix. I'm happy about the Penix pick because it makes every snap exciting, even in the preseason. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't breed malcontent in the fan base. Like, it's one of those things where the most popular guy in town is the backup quarterback, and especially when you have the raw arm talent of Michael Penix. You know, let's say Kirk Cousins comes out and has a bad first game. Get him out of there. We need to see the rookie first-round pick, which, I mean, maybe that's the move if he's totally ready. I mean, you never know, but you paid Cousins. It's probably Cousins. So that's not to twist it negatively, but yeah, you have a lot to be excited for. And with 2 quarterbacks, one coming off a major injury, one with a history of injuries, put them together. Maybe you have a full season of very good quarterback play.
I feel pretty good about it. If Taylor Heineke is your floor, is your third, Taylor Heineke could be a spot starter in this league. He didn't look great last year. Okay. He looked worse last year than in any of his appearances with Washington. I'm like, they all look like crap last year. I don't think Desmond Ridder is as bad as he looked. And I know Taylor Heineke isn't as bad as he looked last year. And I don't think Arthur Smith is as bad as they all look together. It was just a bad mix. Mm-hmm. And the problem is Arthur Smith was like basically co-general manager. So there's the problem. And that's why I had said all along last year, you do not get a pass for this. Well, what do you expect? Arthur Smith didn't get his quarterback. That's his own fault. You don't get a pass for that.
Yeah. And we'll see what happens. I mean, there's some out there, Scott. I'm curious about your take on this, but some analysts believe that Atlanta's offensive line might actually take a step back this season because of losing Arthur Smith. Like, the overall offense should be better, the passing game concepts and whatnot, but hard to deny the offensive line looked pretty darn good underneath Arthur Smith. So we'll see.
Wayne Ledford's still there, so they kept the offensive line coach. And I can name one offensive line coach in football, including my son's team at school. One, Dwayne Ledford. That's how much I pay attention to these guys. That's how good he's been the last couple of years. Again, Arthur Smith did some really good things as a head coach. One of them, his staff was solid, including Dwayne Ledford. Yeah. Ledford stayed around. Now, that said, I think the offensive line could take a step back because they're not going to be doing the things that they are necessarily best at. Meaning, Caleb McGarry in a passing game is a little bit scary. Someone in here may have been John's called him, McScary, and we kind of picked that up. Drew Dahlman, his forte is run blocking. Mm-hmm. So when your 2 best guys, their best things are run blocking. Now, they're not going to go away from the run game, completely. Don't get me wrong. But there will definitely be more 11 personnel, drop back passing from the pocket than we've seen since Matt Ryan was here. And the last time we saw Caleb McGarry blocking for Matt Ryan, it was bad. It was really bad. So, yes, the offensive line could take a step back. That said, you're thinking that Matthew Bergeron in his second year could be better also. Drew Dahlman in his, 4th year now, might be better also. Chris Lindstrom is Chris Lindstrom. He's arguably the best offensive lineman in the NFL. You could make that. He's in the discussion. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying when we're going, okay, who are the best linemen in the NFL? Chris Lindstrom's names it comes up. Mm-hmm. You're good there. Matthews, you're good there. McGarry, it is a question. It is.
Yeah. I mean, there's some pretty darn good offensive line coaches out there. Just not to go too far down it, but Andy Heck at Kansas City is unbelievable. Jeff Stoutland at the Eagles, and I
don't know their names though. But that's my point. Is okay. I don't to register to have made such a difference in one of my teams that I find out who the NFL offensive line coach is.
Mm-hmm.
Ledford's done a good job, and he's still there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that the offensive line coach is typically the highest paid positional coach on the field. They are very important in cobbling together that unit and good ones. I mean, honestly, we talk about the secrets of the Patriots dynasty and stuff. It might be Dante Scarnecchia, their offensive line coach. He was unbelievable for that Patriots dynasty. So we'll see what goes on with Atlanta, and keeping their offensive line coach was huge. Hopefully it doesn't mean the offensive line steps back, losing Arthur Smith, but overall, what's it about? It's a players league, Scott, right? And you improve the quarterback position so much. Probably if you move back 0.5% on the offensive line, you should move up 50% at quarterback.
And when we say, and Terry, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Mike is glad I caught y'all today, and we're glad you're here. And John, I'm going to get to your question too about Kirk Cousins stats. When we talk about coaches and football coaching, y'all hear me say all the time, it's an athlete's game. And I downplay the technique because relative to baseball or basketball, there's just not. You don't hear about, oh yeah, I decided to quit basketball and try out for the football team my sophomore year in college, and now I'm a first-round draft pick. That happens. You don't hear about the guy quitting football to go out for the baseball team, and now he's a starting shortstop for the New York Yankees. That doesn't happen. That said, to your point, Nick, the coaching of technique in the NFL, there's more technique in the trenches than there are anywhere else on the field. I can't get away with pure athleticism in the trenches with the grappling and the use of the hands and all of that stuff the way I can as a running back. I've joked, you've heard me joke before, who's the best recruiter on the staff? Or if there's a guy that can recruit, we make him the running backs coach, because that's an instinctive position. There's not a whole hell of a lot to coach there. No offense to my running back coach friends, I know. But relatively speaking, quarterback and offensive line, and then to the defensive line, I think is where the most coaching goes into, Nick.
Yeah, maybe a lot of X's and O's with linebacker and safety.
Yeah, coordinating is different.
Yeah.
Making sure you understand where to be and read, that's different. But as far as technique, it's quarterback and trenches.
And it's one reason that offensive line is one of the slowest burning positions when you go into the draft, right? You have the raw tools, but unless you understand leverage, the different hand techniques, how to place your body, then it's going to be hard. So, I mean, the offensive line learning curve, I think for offensive tackle is 3.5 years. They did a study at PFF a few years ago. I mean, that's almost the entirety of your rookie contract for that position, which is one reason when you take an offensive lineman, it is a down the line benefit position more times than not. But we'll see. And that should bode well for somebody like a Bergeron. That's why McGarry, year 4, it's not totally shocking that no, it's just a contract year thing. Well, it's a little different with offensive line. Garrett Bowles, another example. He was not good until year 4. And then all of a sudden, he's a top 15 left tackle in football, which is, not amazing, but you're looking for those guys that are even top 15 at that position, considering the drop off. So it makes sense.
You get the freaks of nature that can do just things differently, and they're good right away just because they're so physically talented. Yeah. You talk about Orlando Pace, Jonathan Ogden, Wirfs, all those guys. And then by year 7, just forget it. By the time they actually learn how to play the position, forget it. You're done. Those guys are. I remember a quote from one of the defensive linemen. Old-time Falcons fans will remember Mike Ken. He toiled away for the Falcons for a long, long time, and he's one of those guys, if he played for one of the premier franchises in the NFL, he's probably in the Hall of Fame. And someone said he's like rushing against an encyclopedia. I don't remember who the defensive lineman said it, but I remember reading that quote when I was a kid. I was like, that's awesome. What a great quote. It just what we're talking about on that. Just to highlight the point of the technique involved. And so, yes, I think the offensive line for the Atlanta Falcons could take a step back just because of their being asked to do things differently that aren't necessarily their number one strengths. When they decide they want to run the ball at somebody, they still got that in their locker, though. John says, Scott and Nick, what's y'all's expectations for Kirk stat-wise this year? That's a great question.
Man, I feel like a lot of times I have a hard time with the overall numbers, especially because they added the extra game, right? And then you bake in like the over-unders from Vegas sometimes cook in missing a few games too, right? Because the under can be really easy to hit if a quarterback misses 4 games because of a broken finger or something, right, Scott? So I'm expecting him. I think I'd rather kind of put him in rankings positionally. So I think he's going to end up in the top 10 in efficiency, EPA per play, completion percentage over expected, QBR. Expect him to finish in the top 10. I'm not really impressed with the overall gauntlet, the schedule the Falcons have this year, the NFC in general. I don't think you're playing many top defenses off the top of my head without looking at it on paper. So I expect him to finish somewhere in the top 10.
I think, and I'll go stats wise on this, John. His first year in Minnesota, granted he was 30 years old, but his first year he threw for 4,300 yards on 70% completion. I think that might have actually been a high. That's a career high. But it was 4,300 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 10 INTs in 16 games. Health, we always qualify this every single time. We're going to do it again. Provided he stays healthy, I think we're talking somewhere in that neighborhood. I'd like to see somewhere in that 3-to-1 touchdown interception range, tipping past 4,000 yards. And if and when Kirk Cousins throws for 4,000 yards, because that's not, what is that per game across 17 games? You go 4,000 divided by 17, carry the 1. That's only 235 yards per game.
Yeah.
I mean, we say only. We didn't do it in Atlanta here last year, but Kirk Cousins should be throwing for 240 per game if he's playing 17 games. So I think those numbers, as far as the yards, are actually pretty conservative. It's been throwing the touchdown passes that have been the bugaboo lately. You haven't been able to get the ball into the end zone. So tight windows, better matchups, some hopefully the touchdown numbers come up with it. But I feel good about the 4,000 yards. 25 to 30 touchdowns would be, just under 2 per game. I think that makes sense. And then keep the turnover numbers down. Keep that around 10-ish. 10, 11, I think would be.
With the fumbles?
I'm not counting fumbles. Fumbles
Okay.
are kind of, until you become a fumbler.
Yeah. Which
I feel like those are a team stat to a certain extent with the fumbles.
Yeah.
Because kind of like being a goalkeeper, if someone's shooting and scoring, someone else has already failed their job. Mm-hmm. So I think of fumbles as more of a team stat as opposed to a quarterback stat. Yep. Unless you've got, Kenny Pickett hands and you're fumbling all the time, or you're running the ball and fumbling all the time. So, but I'm talking about you consciously put the ball in danger with throws. So interception. So 30 and 10, 4,000 yards, John. How's that sound, everybody? Does that sound under? Does that sound too conservative, or does that sound wildly, overly optimistic?
I think it sounds about right. And also got to bring up the point you talked about getting the ball in the end zone and just this offense in general. I would imagine that this offense isn't going to be Matt Stafford with the Rams and, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. I think this is going to be more Todd Gurley with the Rams, where you have Goff and you have a really talented running back, and running backs are a shooting star, Scott, right? They burn bright, but they burn quick. So it's going to be run through everything's going to go through Bijan Robinson, in my opinion. You have that veteran quarterback, but still it's going to be under center. It's going to be play action and hopefully a high volume and usage with the running back. I mean, heck, even Tyler Allgeier, right? One of the best running back twos in the league, in my opinion. I'm a huge fan of Allgeier, but maybe some of the volume stats aren't as high, but the efficiency goes up because it is going through the running back to a very high extent.
Brian says Cousins is the Mount Rushmore of QB fumblers. He was double digits per season in Minnesota.
Yeah, it's an issue.
That's okay. That's a bunch. So let's try and limit when that happens. Again, not all turnovers are created equally. Desmond Ridder put the ball in danger a lot, but by God, he put it in danger in the red zones. Mm-hmm. a bend but don't break quarterback. Or, don't bend and break. I don't know how to say it, but it's like he'd get decent numbers between the 20s, and then in the red zones would just implode. That can get better as he gets calmer down the line, as he gets more experience and everything. But Desmond Ritter's not the Falcons' problem anymore. Hopefully, Rondale Moore ends up being a really nice return, and that looks like what were the Arizona Cardinals thinking when they got rid of this speedster with Rondale Moore coming in from the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, I mean, God, I loved Rondale Moore at Purdue. I'll never forget his first game in college. It was maybe it was a Thursday night game, Saturday night game, I don't know, but it was against Ohio State, and man, he went buck wild. So hopefully he looks pretty good in Atlanta. He's one of those manufactured touches kind of guys, but when it's so hard to create explosive plays in today's NFL, getting somebody who kind of like a basketball scorer, right? You just get it to them on the wing and they're going to take it to the paint and get to the rim. I mean, there's a lot of value to that. So maybe some questions about the route running and the process of the ball getting to him and bringing it in cleanly sometimes with his size. A little bit running back, wide receiver hybrid, but fun, electric player. And not a lot of teams have is the number that the Falcons have.
One more takeaway, and then we're going to get out of here for the day and let and get going. JB says, don't forget Tyler Allgeier. So I never forget. I won't say never. I do not discount Tyler Allgeier. I think he's awesome. I love him. I love the way he runs the ball. But in this case, we've been talking about the passing game, and he's not a huge threat in the passing game. Through his first 2 years, despite all the touches he had, he's only got 34 receptions on, let me see, on targets. Just looked it up. It was 34 catches on 40 targets. So decent efficiency. Last year, he had 186 carries. He had 18, so about 200 touches. Over under on 200 this year, 200 touches for the Atlanta Falcons for Tyler Allgeier. Which are you taking?
I'll take the over.
Really?
I think
150 at best. I think Tyler Allgeier is going to be, I think he's going to see his role go way down this year, assuming everybody's healthy. I know. I think Bijan's going to be the guy, and it's going to get spread out to the wide receivers. I do not think Tyler Allgeier gets 200 touches this year.
You know what I think? Okay, with Rondale Moore as a part of the option as well, and we talked about him being kind of running back, wide receiver hybrid, given his size and height. I could see that happening, but man, running back is such a volatile position, Scott, that you have one ding and all of a sudden you have.
I'm not talking injuries. Forget injuries.
It has to be baked into the discussion.
That counts. No, we're talking. Will Tyler Allgeier have a bigger role in this offense or a smaller role in this offense? That's what it boils down to. I think he has a smaller role in this offense.
It probably has to, because you're not going to be trying to hide the quarterback like you were last season. So that just means in general, that's probably happening. You were last year really trying to hold on to the football. Hopefully you have a little bit more quick strike stuff this season. But yeah, over from there, under from there. Yeah, it is probably under, just because the sliding scale will move a little bit towards opening it up in my opinion.
There should be more passing.
Yeah, even though I don't think it's going to be an all-out passing assault. But compared to last season with Desmond Ridder and Marcus Mariota, where you're like trying to limit them and hide them to a certain extent, that shouldn't be probably the vibe with Atlanta this year.
No, I think there will be more the sliding scale on the pass to rush ratio will slide towards passing, so there will be less opportunities for the running backs. And I think all of the talk about getting Bijan Robinson not just more involved, but becoming the focal point of this offense is what we're hearing. I think Tyler Allgeier will be lucky to see 150 touches this year, which would be a 25% decrease. So he went down about 10% last year when Bijan, he went from 225 to 200, and from 22 to 23, the year 22. I know I'm throwing all these numbers out. That I think it goes down about another 25%, and he goes from 200 touches to about 150. And hopefully those are, and I mean from scrimmage, Jordan says Tyler Allgeier is going to be in on kickoffs. And I just mean from scrimmage, because you got Ray McLeod, you got Avery Williams, and then, you got Tyler Allgeier as a weapon. But I love Tyler Allgeier, but it's Bijan's time now.
Yeah.
It's Kirk Cousins, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. It's $100 quarterback, number 4 pick, number 8 pick, number 8 pick. And if those guys aren't involved much more heavily, it cost one guy his job last year.
Yeah. I'm just such an Allgeier fan. I got to stand my guy.
Me
Not
too.
that you aren't,
Me
but
too.
I mean, it might even be the best thing for him if he only gets 150 touches this year, because he might actually get a decent second contract, and being a 5th round pick, he really hasn't seen money yet. So here's to hoping he stays healthy and gets that money, being a late pick and a running back.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal, and he's the kind of guy I love watching play the game. He plays every game like he takes every carry like it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the guys that make me love this game of football, is a guy like Tyler Allgeier. So don't get me wrong on this. I just think the writing on the wall right now is he plays less of a role in this offense. I just think there's going to be less opportunities, and Bijan's going to get more opportunities. So on that note, we are going to get out of here, y'all. We're about 41 minutes. We will be back on Monday to find out what's been going on, to see what the latest is. And we might start getting into some of the hypotheticals and some of the best evers and some of the, just the off-season talk where we go off the rails a little bit. And we want you to be part of that so you can chime in, because I know there's a lot of knowledgeable, long-time NFL and Falcons fans in here. Nick, any last words?
No, it's good to be back. We won't see you again before then, so happy Father's Day to all the fathers in here as well. It's my first one. Yeah, Mike Harvey comes in as well with that. Doesn't even feel real to me, right? I think like, oh yeah, I got to call my dad. Wait a second. I'm a father now. What the heck? But maybe it's the sleep deprivation. But appreciate everyone. Good to be back talking Falcons again. I know that we're entering the sleepy season here for football, but that's okay. Get outside. We'll still be here hanging out, having fun. Maybe episodes a little shorter in July or whatever, but football's coming. It's around the corner. Just like winter eventually ends and summer comes, football eventually comes back. So, we won't wish for it to get here. We'll enjoy the moments leading up to it, and should be a fun season. Excited for this Falcons team. Excited to cover. I mean, God, I'm knock on wood here, Scott, but maybe finally covering a playoff team for the first time in my life. I've been covering the Broncos.
If the Falcons host a game, you might have to come down here.
Man, it would be pretty darn awesome. Never been to Atlanta. Sounds like a pretty good city, good food scene. That's my biggest complaint about Seattle.
Atlanta's awesome. It was. I spent the weekend over, the long weekend, 4 days over in Hoover, Alabama, outskirts of Birmingham, and that was nice too. I like, Atlanta's the hub. I mean, it's a hub of the Southeast, so it's kind of 2 hours from everywhere. You want to go up to Charlotte, it's 3 hours. When it gets down to Orlando, it's 5 hours. You want to, get over to Birmingham, it's 2 hours, and you get an hour back. So it is a great city. It's been growing for about 40 straight years now for a reason.
Yeah. So it's pretty hard for me to leave Seattle when it's June through October, because it's freaking beautiful out here this time of year. We have a Mediterranean climate, but yeah, should be a good team covering this season with the Falcons, and excited for it. Excited to watch a team that I have real hopes for this season. That's not, and if you've been following me on the Broncos or Scott on the Broncos, you know that I am not somebody who lives in the homerism, copium that goes on with a lot of folks. Every player that we have is the best signing ever. I'm very much wait and see. I'm a big believer in this Falcons team this year on the offensive side of the ball, in the NFC South, being a playoff NFC South contender. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're Super Bowl because I've got questions on defense, but should be a playoff team.
Oh, it should be a lot more fun, and it shouldn't be less bang your head against the wall, smack my head moments on offense is one of the things frustrating. Kelvin O'Connor, this is a final thought we're gonna be in here because I like this. I hope they utilize him, that's Tyler Allgeier, well and often. Respecting Kirk's passing will mean defenses can't load the box. The over I do want to take on Tyler Allgeier. He only averaged 3.7 yards per carry last year. That goes up. That goes up a lot. If he goes down 25% in touches, he goes up 25% in yards per touch and ends up with a similar amount of yards. So that's I agree with you, Kelvin. I think the idea is everybody and everything should be more efficient on offense. That's the goal, because last year it felt like a slog, and it's cost a couple people their jobs, their quarterback the job. It cost the head coach a job, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback New quarterbacks have come in to try and fix that problem and fix what ails the Atlanta Falcons. At least that's a longer conversation, at least on the field in the short term. On that note, we're going to get out of here. Appreciate you joining us. We'll see you next Monday. Y'all enjoy the rest of your week. It is gorgeous out today in the Southeast, and we will see you next week.
Peace.